been following this channel for any length of time, you know we have talked about all three coordinators, technically, for the Cincinnati Bengals this offseason. I say technically because one of them is Dan Pitcher, which is a quarterback's coach. Then we talked about Lou, the defense coordinator, and obviously the offense coordinator, Callahan. Now, all three potentially could have left this offseason and went elsewhere. Obviously, Lou almost got the head coaching job for the Arizona Cardinals. That fell through because he didn't have the according to the Cardinals, to be a head coach, and they went with somebody else. Obviously, it fell through for the Colts, job with the OC Callahan. And then finally, Tampa Bay was so close to getting quarterbacks coach Dan Pitcher for the OC job. But Dan decided, you know what? The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener in Cincinnati, so I'm staying in Cincinnati. He actually chose to stay in Cincinnati because since he offered him a good deal, and he said he wanted to be with the Cincinnati Bengals. So, with that being said, we got some comments from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers definitely wanted him a lot. So, this is coming in from Todd of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I saw him a year ago when we played him. He's such a great coach developing Joe Burrow. He does a great job systematically helping out, Bowles said. After I interviewed him, I think he's going to be a heck of a coach in this league, and he brings something to the table from integrity standpoint about running an offense that you normally don't get in this league, and I have a lot of respect for him. So obviously, this is the guy who was about to hire him in Tampa Bay. Obviously, it didn't work out, since he came in at the last second and said, nah, bro, the banker has to offer you this deal. And Dan Pitcher said, oh, wow, that's a beautiful deal, and that's a beautiful team. So he went back to Cincinnati. But still, this is why I'm saying, all three coordinators, and I'm going to call Dan Pitcher coordinator in this context, because he was about to become an offense coordinator, okay? So he technically is a coordinator, but his job is quarterback's coach. All three of these guys, Callahan, Lou, and Pitcher, they're all going to eventually become, obviously, I'm going to guess that Callahan is going to become a head coach. Lou is going to become a head coach. And then finally, Dan Pitcher is eventually going to become an OC or a head coach down the line in the future. So, this is one thing where it's like, whenever you're winning and you're doing really great, we talk all the time about keeping players, right? Keeping players together, keeping Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd, keeping the band together here. But a lot of times people don't realize is how much important the coaching staff is too. And now as Bengals fans, you already know that, Lou is the mad scientist. He's the absolute gem defensively. But this is why this offseason, this is how magical this offseason actually is. And this is another reason why I think you guys are going to go win the Super Bowl and finally get rid of that drought of not having a ring, because you kept the most important pieces together. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, T. Higgins staying is amazing. Yes, Tyler Boyd staying is amazing. But if you think of it like, let's say it's a ship, right? You got a ship. You got the conductor, the person who actually, drives the ship, who is Joe Burrow. You have the people who take care and manage the ship, which T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. But then you got the actual ship. And that's a mix of the three coaches, Callahan, Lou, and finally Dan Pitcher, who actually keep that ship. Like, they're the ship. They're the vessel taking you to where you need to go. And without them, that ship starts breaking down and deteriorating and becoming a mess. Now, let's say, because if we're being honest here, either next year or the year after that, those guys are eventually going to be moving on, right? And again, they'll be eventually progressing their careers. And Zach Taylor has already made it known that, he's going to be here until you take him away in a coffin, he said. You're going to have to take him away in a coffin to get him to leave Cincinnati. So the head coaching job is not going to be available. It's Brian Callahan. So Brian Callahan, eventually going to become a head coach, right? And if Zach Taylor is the head coach, he's not taking it over Zach Taylor. And neither is Lou. So that means those two guys eventually down the line, I know it's awful to say because, you never want to talk about this, is eventually those guys are going to move on and progress their careers and leave Cincinnati. That's not like, oh, well, they love Cincinnati, they're going to stay because, well, yes, they could, technically speaking, stay forever as OC and DC. They're going to want to make more money and, progress their careers with head coaching jobs down the line. Hopefully they go to good head coaching jobs and not go to the ones they were about to go to, which was the Cardinals, which is a dumpster fire, and Brian Callahan going to the Colts, which was a dumpster fire too. But hopefully they go to good coaching jobs down the line. But that's going to happen, right? Dan Pitcher, when Callahan does leave, could potentially stay as the OC for Cincinnati. He could end up becoming the OC in Cincinnati once, Callahan leaves. So it's like you don't really have to go out there and find a new personnel or a new person. It could be, okay, Callahan is the guy, Pitcher's the head quarterback's coach. Once Callahan leaves, Pitcher becomes the quarterback coach. Becomes the OC. Now, who will become the DC? That will end up, we'll find that out later one day when it does happen, sadly. As Lou said, when you lost the Von Bell and Jesse Bates, it was a dark day. It would be the darkest day in Cincinnati Bengals history when you guys do lose Lou. But at this moment in time, we're not going to talk about that negative Nancy there. We're going to talk about the positive that, yes, Dan Pitcher will eventually become, in my opinion, the offense coordinator for Cincinnati Bengals. So, I think out of all the guys, right, Dan Pitcher is probably going to be a Bengal for his whole career. Unless he eventually becomes head coach somewhere, I think, honestly, he'll probably be the guy moving forward for the whole career of his whole career with Cincinnati. Which, again, usually don't see that much, and it's amazing to actually, if it does happen, for a guy to go from, quarterback's coach, then to OC, and become the go-to guy for a team for his whole career. So, again, with how Todd Bowles talks him up, I don't see, and Cincinnati also loves him. Again, he almost left, and they snagged him back and said, you're not going anywhere. I think this is the guy moving forward. So no matter how much that ship breaks apart, there's always going to be one little piece left, and that's Dan Pitcher. I don't know why I use ship as a reference. I could have used any other reference possible, but I use the ship as a reference. So that's a W. Guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. Who is your favorite coordinator? Lou, Callahan, or again, I'm going to say Dan Pitcher as a coordinator because he'll eventually become one. Dan Pitcher. Who is your guy? Tell me down below. I'll see you guys next one. Peace out.